Okay, so the title of this talk is putting knowledge into action. In other words, walking what you know. Yeah. But before I get into that topic, is Gary online somewhere? Gary Leung? Well, if you know him, tell him I'm answering his question, and he can look on the internet and watch the talk. Okay, because he sent in a question after the last talk. So Gary said, how does one be easily satisfied and yet understand there is room for improvement? I reflected and thought one can be satisfied when there is no longer any room for improvement. In other words, you're satisfied when you've attained what you've sought. I am currently a medical student and have a feeling of dissatisfaction when I fall behind on studies, and it's a very discomforting feeling. Yeah, I think we all know that when we have certain responsibilities and we fall behind for whatever reason, and then we pressure ourselves, which makes us feel worse and makes us procrastinate more, and we get ourselves all tied up. So coming back to the first question, how does one, or how can one be easily satisfied yet understand there is room for improvement? So what we are right now, what knowledge we have, what abilities we have, whatever possessions we have, whatever ranks we have, all those things that are present now are the reality of this moment, the conventional reality of this moment. So, of course, we would like to have more and better and be more and better and have more extensive abilities and so on, but we don't have those right now. So why not be satisfied with what we do have right now, what we are capable of doing, instead of always running ourselves ragged with, I should be better, I should, why aren't I ought to be, you know the routine. Yeah. So, because what is, so we might as well be satisfied with it, because being dissatisfied with it is a rejection of what exists in this very moment, and rejecting the conventional reality of this moment doesn't change it. It just makes us, dissatisfied and kind of a mess, really. Okay. Now, being satisfied with this moment and our talents and abilities and so on of this moment doesn't mean that there's no room for improvement or that we're not going to improve. Okay. We're just being satisfied with what is now, and we know we can improve. Okay. So those two things are not contradictory, being satisfied with what is now and knowing we can improve in the future. Those two things go together. And I think that's important so that we have some peace within ourselves instead of always this self-flagellation of, I should be more, other people expect more of me, I expect more of me, how come I'm not better, other people are better than me, I should do this, I should not do that. Oh my goodness, we drive ourselves nutty. Okay, what is now is, and as Lama Yeshe always used to tell us, is good enough. Yeah, for what is now, what is good enough. And in the future, we can grow more, learn more, develop different abilities, and so on. Okay? So if we see it this way, then there's some kind of acceptance of the moment, as well as hope and aspiration for the future. Okay? It's making some sense to people? Yeah. So accepting the moment doesn't mean that we're giving ourselves permission just to be lazy and not do anything in the future. That won't make us happy. Okay. So now to the topic about how to change your knowledge into action. Yeah, I was thinking about that, and it relates very specifically to the fifth far-reaching practice, the fifth paramita of enthusiasm or joyous effort. Okay, because joyous effort is what it takes to get from what we know now to actually putting it in practice and making it a reality in our lives. Before I get into the perfection of joyous effort, I thought I would share some of the things that we do in the Abbey that I hope will show us how we're already trying to put our knowledge into practice, and some things that I do myself and things that I've heard from other practitioners. So I think it starts with when we wake up in the morning, okay, and setting our motivation in the morning, because that motivation is what is going to direct what we do. And if we want to put our knowledge into practice, the motivation to do that is the most important first step. If we don't have a motivation or an aspiration, then we're not going to do anything. Okay, so that's why. What I do when I wake up is think about, before thinking what I have to do, where I'm going, blah blah. Okay, most important thing today is not to harm anybody. And just to think that, I do this even before I get out of bed, because that is the most important thing. Yeah. So the knowledge that we have from studying karma, we know that avoiding harming others is like the first instruction the Buddha gave us. Yeah. So that's the most important thing we have to do, not harm others today. There's several most important things we have to do. So most doesn't mean just one. Yeah, the second most important thing is to benefit others as much as we can. Okay. And so these two, just to start out with, to think in our life of, who are you likely to meet? What kind of beings are you likely to come in contact with? Is there going to be anybody that you get angry at, that you would be tempted to harm? Yeah. Or is there some kind of situation that triggers you, that where you would, be tempted to fly off the handle and verbally say something or think something? Yeah. And think about what those situations are, and then make a resolve. If we encounter them, if we encounter those people, we're not going to harm them. Okay. That our anger is our responsibility. Yeah. It comes from how we are conceiving the situation. Yeah. And so rather than harm somebody and blame somebody for what we're experiencing that we don't like, to try and apply an antidote that we've learned in our Buddhist studies. Yeah. And you know, at the beginning of the practice, when your emphasis is really on learning the antidotes and thinking in our meditation, bringing up situations from the past, and then practice applying those antidotes. Remember times in the past where you flew off the handle and you said or did things that you really regret, and then run those things in your mind again, but this time have try and cultivate one of the attitudes that like Shantideva has taught in Guide to Bodhisattva's Way of Life about how to keep the mind calm in the face of harm or illness or whatever. Okay, so practice it in your mind. Yeah, when as you kind of get firmer in your Dharma knowledge and your study, then you what happens to you in the day is the direct lesson and the direct opportunity, you know, and you realize, oh, it was so nice learning all these antidotes and meditating on them and clearing up all my grudges and stuff from the past. That feels so good. And now somebody's sitting here telling me off and criticizing me for something or blaming me for something and not doing what I want, and I'm getting mad again. And you have to like go, oh, now's my time to put it into practice. Yeah, right in the situation. Whatever I learned before, whatever I practiced in my meditation, now I've got to think like that and quick change the mind. Okay, so as you practice longer, you develop the ability to do that quicker. Okay, yeah, and then then everything you encounter becomes an opportunity to practice. Yeah, but you have to be on your toes, because when we aren't on our toes, then all of our old habits just come, you know, they take control and we do the same old, same old. Okay, so those are the first two most important things to do. And it's really a good preparation for the day if you think of specific things that come up in the day, that where you're going to have to keep your mind together and calm, and specific times where you may be able to benefit somebody and how you're going to do it. Okay. Then there's two more most important things. Okay. And these are two things that His Holiness the Dalai Lama stress. Yeah. So one is to cultivate bodhicitta. Yeah, that loving, compassionate aspiration to become a fully awakened Buddha for the benefit of sentient beings. And so, you know, you're still lying in bed thinking, you know, planning for the day. And it's like, okay, today, another most important thing is to, you know, try and enhance my bodhicitta and try and see other living beings as suffering beings, you know, who are not out to get me, who are not trying to harm me, but they're just trying to be happy. And sometimes they're very confused about how to be happy. So I need to have some patience and some compassion with them instead of just letting my judgmental mind go bananas. Okay. And so thinking again of situations where you can cultivate bodhicitta and generating that intention in the morning. And then the fourth most important thing, yeah. So His Holiness always talks about bodhicitta and, yeah, the realization of emptiness. And so next most important thing to do today is, as much as possible, to remember that things do not have any inherent nature and that they arise dependently. And that if we can keep this awareness of dependency in our mind, it really helps us not to get upset. Yeah. And it helps us with accepting the situation instead of saying, should, ought to, why isn't it? And so on. Yeah. It's just things arise due to a whole plethora of reasons. Yeah. And when you really start tracing these things back, I mean, there's no end to it, because everything you think of has a cause, has a cause, has a cause. So you think of causality and dependent arising that way, and then you can also think of how things exist dependent on parts, and how they exist dependent on being conceived and labeled by our mind. Yeah, and so to make a aspiration throughout the day to remind yourself of emptiness at different times and apply it to your life. Yeah, and I find, the first line that we say when we offer our lunch in the 5 contemplations, which I can never remember when I have to recite it alone in front of a group. I contemplate all the causes and conditions and the kindness of others by which I have received this food. Okay, so that in itself is a call to think about dependent arising and emptiness. Okay, because we're thinking about the causes and conditions. And so here you think of all your own causes and conditions, what you did in previous lives, sharing food, being generous, and so on. And even though you don't remember who you were in your previous life or what you did, you're experiencing the result of it now. And so that also reinforces our intention to continue to create virtuous karma, because we see that right now we're experiencing the result of previously created virtuous karma. And that's nice, we get to eat lunch, but if we don't create more virtue, then in the future, the causes and conditions for us just to have a meal may not be there. Okay, so the causes and conditions, thinking about what we did in the past to bring the food, to ourselves, specifically through generosity in the past, and I think probably not wasting food, not being frivolous and throwing things out. And then we contemplate also the kindness of others. And that's also thinking of causes and conditions, because without other living beings and without their minds of kindness and generosity, as monastics, we wouldn't have food, because we only eat the food that is offered to us. We don't go out and buy our own food. So every day thinking, that I'm able to have lunch, not just because of the karma I created, but really the kindness of other living beings. And that's another very, very important, those are very important causes and conditions to remember. Okay. And that's just for one small thing during the day of having lunch. But, for me, that first line in the prayer reminds me of this, yeah? And then, of course, thinking of the food as being empty of any kind of inherent existence. So, when you walk in and you have the smell of something that you really like, and then your mind is already having lunch, okay, but you haven't even offered the food. Yeah, to come back and say, no, this food, there's nothing inherently delicious in it, nothing inherently satisfying in it. And I'm doing this just to keep my body alive. Okay. Why am I keeping my body alive? So that I can practice the Dharma. Okay. So you remember all these things, and it's not too difficult to bring the perspective of emptiness and dependent arising into these things when you think about them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, if during the day, you meet somebody and they say something really mean to you, those words have no inherent existence. Yeah, those words are only sound waves. That's all. Okay, they are sound waves. The sound waves hit our auditory faculty. Okay, and that gets conveyed to the mental consciousness. But all we're hearing is sound waves. Yeah. Where does the meaning come from? Okay. We think the meaning came from the other person. They may have had a meaning in what they said, but whether we apprehend the meaning which they said that they intended, or another meaning, who knows? Yeah, because somebody can say something and we apprehend something totally different. Why? Because it was only sound waves that hit our ears, and it's our mind, our conceptual mind, that recognize those sound waves as words and then imputed meaning on those words. Yeah. So we're not hearing exactly what the other person intended because we are not in their mind. Yeah. So it's helpful to remember that, especially when somebody says something really mean, it's like, oh, they're trying to hurt me. I've got to get defensive. I've got to fight back. This whole chain reaction when we hear something we don't like. And then to remember, no, there's no meaning in those sounds, because if somebody said those same words and made those same sounds, but looked at somebody else, I would not feel upset and the way I'm feeling right now when that person looked at me and said it. Yeah, why not? If this harmful, insulting meaning were in those words and those sound waves, then whoever they were said to, I would be offended and insulted and want to get defensive and attack back or whatever. But that's not the case. Yeah. I only hear insult when the words are directed to me, or maybe to somebody else who I like or admire. But other than that, I don't, there's no intrinsic meaning in those sound waves. It's imputed by my mind. Yeah. And watch how your mind reacts to thinking that. No, I know they meant this. I know for sure because last time they did this and that, and I know that it's really this way, and the only choice I have is to, yeah, and to see, oh, no, that's not. All of that is not in those sound waves. All of that is coming from me. Yeah, they didn't make me angry. I make myself angry. Yeah. Have you ever thought of it that way? I make myself angry by how I see it. I make myself offended. I make myself insulted. I make myself left out. Whatever it is. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. So that's how to start your day with transforming knowledge into practice. Yeah, just setting up that fourfold motivation and then trying to stay with it during the day. Yeah. And then throughout the day, pausing at different times of the day to remember your motivation. This is another way to put our Dharma knowledge into practice. And just pausing and remembering these four things. Yeah. So you're going, you went to work and, it's very good before you turn the computer on or turn the machine on or whatever you're doing, your work is concerning, to come back to your motivation. Why am I doing this? Yeah. Why am I going to work? Yeah. It's a very interesting question. And it's hard to be really honest with ourselves because we like to think, oh, I'm going because I can benefit other people. But usually what the reason is, I'm going because I get paid. And I want money because money will enable me to have what I want and to give some to my family so they can have what they want. Yeah, do you think? Yeah, is that somehow part, you may want to help people too, but is, the aspiration to have money in there too? Yeah. So how much are we just going to accept that and keep up with that, at the same time telling us, oh, I'm benefiting others, this is very good, but I'm sure glad that they pay me and I hope they give me more. I mean, I really do deserve a raise because I really do a lot. Yeah. How much does our mind get caught up in that kind of thing? So here apply the actual teachings on generosity. And here, it's we may be giving material things. We're giving our time, basically. Yeah. And we may be giving some aspect of the Dharma. Even you're just working in a regular job, you can still, when you talk to people, make sure that your conversations relate to something meaningful. Yeah, that you're not just having blah blah conversations or forming cliques against somebody else in the office or bad mouthing this person so that my clique feels good, or however you do it. So have some mindfulness mindfulness and introspective awareness during the day. So the mindfulness in this case is mindfulness of our precepts, not to harm, and what they entail, and mindfulness of our aspirations to be of benefit. So holding these things in the mind, and then with introspective awareness, monitoring the mind. Yeah, being aware of what's going on in our mind. And are we thinking, feeling, saying, doing according to our aspiration, or have afflictions taken over? Okay, so that's a whole other practice, you know. And so they say to have that kind of mindfulness and introspective awareness in all your different physical postures, whether you're sitting or standing, lying down or walking. Yeah, and to maintain that. So that means that all during the day we're in one of those four physical postures, unless you are floating in the air, you're levitating somewhere in the air, or jumping up and not coming down, or whatever. We're always in one of those postures. So to be aware not of only of what our body's doing, but what we're saying, what we're feeling, what we're thinking, what we're bringing to the situation, and how we're responding and reacting to situations. Okay, so those are some ideas about how to apply what you know to your life. And then in the evening, it's very good to review the day, well, as much as possible during the day, to, with mindfulness and with monitoring our mind with introspective awareness, keeping track of what's going on. And, if our mind is going downhill, then pull it back up to where it needs to be. But then also at the end of the day, it's good to review the day and see, how did I do? How did I act according to my motivation in the morning? Yeah. And here is the practice of being very honest with ourselves. Yeah. This is the time when we tend to, well, yeah, I got mad at that person, but they deserved it. Okay, so yes, I admit I got angry, that's my responsibility, but actually it's not my responsibility because they deserved it. Okay, so learning to be honest with ourselves in that way, not honest in the sense of being harsh and being self-critical. Yeah. Oh, you hypocrite. You said you weren't going to get angry today, and then you got angry, and now you're saying, you're acknowledging, yes, you got angry, but you're still blaming the other person. You're talking to yourself, I'm such a hypocrite. Oh, I'm such a failure at a Dharma practice. Oh, come on, please. That kind of response is useless. It's not at all helpful. And it's also not true. Okay. We have so many interesting ways in our culture about thinking about this, and so much tendency towards self-criticism. Yeah. I remember talking with one young man who came to EML, and he was telling me that if he isn't critical of himself, then he's very afraid that he's going to get lazy. So his fear of laziness makes him always, critical, coming down on himself, trashing himself. And then I said, so does being that way to yourself actually help you overcome the laziness? Yeah. And no, it doesn't, because that kind of self-criticism is a form of laziness. Yeah, it is a form of laziness because we're not seeing the situation accurately, and we're, again, developing obstacles for ourselves to doing what we want to do. Yeah, so we're being lazy. Yeah, it's like, oh, I should have today, I should have done this and I should have done that, but I'm just so lazy and I got distracted and this other person annoyed me and I got mad again and I just can't keep it all together during the day. So here's another whole day I wasted in my precious human life. Yeah. Do you ever do that at the end of the day? Yeah. One more day I wasted in my precious human life. Oh, woe is me. Yeah. And then thinking that what you're doing is actually accurately assessing your situation. You're not. You're just blaming yourself. Yeah. And you're being the star of your own complaints. It's that kind of self-criticism is just another form of self-centeredness. Look at me, how bad I am. I'm the biggest failure. Yeah, I can't be the best, but definitely nobody else has failed like me. Yeah, I know what I need to do and I'm not doing it. My teacher gave me instructions. I'm not doing it. It's just all about me, isn't it? Yeah. All about me, how bad I am. There's no thought of the experience of any other sentient being at that moment. Yeah. The only thought is, I am hopeless. Yeah? Now, okay, how do you deal with that? Who's saying I'm hopeless? Well, the first thought is, well, if the Buddha were here, the Buddha would say I was hopeless. Look how I'm acting. And if my teacher knew how I was doing, they would say I'm hopeless too. Yeah, anybody would say I'm hopeless. Yeah. And then you think, does the Buddha say that sentient beings are hopeless? When you've studied the qualities of the Buddha, is one of them that the Buddha gets upset with sentient beings and says that they're hopeless and throws them out the window and doesn't help them anymore? Is that one of the qualities of a Buddha? So what are you doing when you're thinking the Buddha would really criticize me and tell me off? Yeah. Are you going to go to the Buddha? If you imagine the Buddha in front of you, are you going to go to the Buddha and say, okay, you make your 3 prostrations and then you have to say, Buddha, I know that you're supposed to be tolerant and compassionate with everybody, but I know that you aren't, because I know that you give up on me, that you look at me and you think I'm worthless and useless and can't do anything right. So I know that you don't have compassion for everybody. Okay, are you going to go say that to the Buddha? That would take a lot of guts to go say that to the Buddha, wouldn't it? Yeah. You think when you tell the Buddha off like that, yeah, that you're correctly describing the Buddha? Yeah. Buddha, I know, you just give up on people like me. I know it. Yeah. Yeah, imagine. I mean, it's an interesting thing to imagine. Imagine telling the Buddha that you know his characteristics better than he does, and that you know he's just as judgmental as you are, and that he's going to abandon you just like you abandon others. Yeah. Do you have the nerve to say that to a fully awakened being? Okay. If you have ever heard the word chutzpah, that is chutzpah. Okay. Chutzpah means, the nerve. Yeah, you have the nerve to say something outrageous like that to a fully awakened Buddha. Whoa. That's chutzpah, isn't it? Yeah. Do you have that chutzpah? Would you go up to it? Yeah. You go up to His Holiness and say, yeah, His Holiness, Your Holiness, you look like you're, friendly and fine, and you say that everybody's your friend, but I know you're going to abandon me just like everybody else has abandoned me. And I know that you're going to criticize me just like everybody else criticized me. Think about that. Yeah. So, we've got to deal with this mind of always putting ourselves down. Yeah. And, if we move now into the part that I mentioned at the beginning, talking about the perfection of joyous effort, that thing of self-criticism and disparaging ourselves is one form of laziness. Yeah. What's the opposite of joyous effort? Laziness. Okay. We usually think laziness means you just sleep all day and lounge around all day and don't do much. Okay. That's what people thought Shantideva's problem was. Yeah. No, Shantideva, the author of the Engaging in a Bodhisattva's Deeds, he lived at the monastery and he was known for doing three things: eating, drinking, and going to the bathroom. Okay, and they thought he was useless at the monastery because that's all he did was those three things. Okay, he was a mooch. Yeah, mooching. Yeah, he was a mooch. Yeah. So, that's the epitome of laziness. Yeah, just sitting around, reading comic books. Yeah, that's what Shantideva did all day. He sat in his hut, leaned over, had a cup of coffee. Yeah, started playing his. He turned on his phone and started watching TikTok. Yeah. Do you know that old people are the latest rage on TikTok? Yeah, that they have like grannies TikTok, and the grannies are like millions of followers. Yeah. Somebody told us that the Sangha here should go on TikTok. Yeah. They said, oh, you need to raise money for the Buddha Hall. Go on TikTok. Yeah. And we can all do Amitofo on TikTok. Okay. So, no, you're such a deadbeat. No fun at all. Huh? You would get a lot of followers. Yeah, I'm sure we would, because I've heard of Catholic nuns on TikTok who kind of go and dance and, millions of followers. Yeah. Yeah, we should do that. Take out Buddha Bear. Namo Amitabha. Yeah. And dance around and okay. So that, that's what we think, that's what laziness is. Yeah. You have your coffee, your TikTok. Yeah. You're looking out the window. Yeah. And then you have what do you have? Danish pastry, chocolate chip cookies, French fries, a Big Mac. Yeah. Or Kentucky Fried Vegetarian Chicken. Do they have that yet? Not yet. Colonel Sanders doesn't have that.
I haven't checked actually.
Yeah, Colonel Sanders needs some education, Yeah, and we think, oh, that's what laziness is. Well, that's one form of laziness. You just lounge around and don't do anything, okay? Another form of laziness is that you are the busiest of the busy. Yeah. This is often called engagement in harmful activities. But what it boils down to is you're a normal person in society being busy chasing after pleasure, helping your friends and harming your enemies. And isn't that being normal in society? Yeah. Help your friends, harm your enemies, chase pleasure, get upset when you don't get what you want, or when you get what you don't want. Okay. So that's called being normal. Isn't it? In our society, that's called being normal. And so you keep yourself busy and you never get to the meditation cushion. Have you noticed that? You have some incredible high aspiration to get to that cushion, and you never quite get there because there's always something else that comes up that you need to do that is crucially important. Or, you really intend to read that book, and you really intend to go through your notes of the last teaching you had. You really have it. But you just can't get to that notebook. And anyway, your handwriting's too messy, so you can't read it. So why even take it out? You didn't take very good notes. This is what you tell yourself. I didn't take very good notes. My handwriting's bad. I missed a lot of the important points. Anyway, the teacher will review it next time. So I don't really need to do it. Yeah, but you know what I really need to do that I've been putting off for so long? And finally now, instead of studying my notes, I'm going to do the most important thing, the laundry. Yeah, and the laundry you've been putting off for so long, now you do, simply because it's a distraction so that you don't have to study. Okay. Here you see the benefit of community life, because we have a schedule when laundry is done. And when you're on laundry and have to do laundry, yeah, you better do it, because you're not just doing your own laundry that you can procrastinate on. You're doing the laundry of everybody in your group, and they aren't going to be happy if it's not done. Yeah. So how to get yourself to do the laundry when you're procrastinating? How to get yourself to clean your desk? Yeah. That needs some, nothing happens if you don't clean your desk. aside from the fact that you can't get anything done. But, we need some kind of something that's going to motivate people to tidy up their desk. Yeah. So you either have to sit down and meditate for an hour or spend an hour cleaning your desk. Yeah, people might get their desk clean that way. Yeah. I don't want to sit for an hour. Oh. Yeah. This is the
meditate.
What?
Or they might meditate.
Yeah. 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 Anything but clean the desk. Yeah, it's so funny how our mind works, isn't it? Yeah, it's so funny, so strange. Okay, so being the busiest of the busy, doing things that don't really matter. Yeah, or doing things that are important, but with a motivation just, to get them done. And how many of us have the motivation? You have your list of what you want to do that day. And satisfaction, like Gary mentioned, satisfaction comes from checking off that one, checking off this one, checking off that. I did everything on my list. Yeah. But what was our motivation? To check off everything on our list. Yeah. No motivation beyond that. Right? Is that right? Is that accurate? Yeah. Okay. So that's the second kind of laziness. Third kind of laziness is putting ourselves down, and saying, this is just too difficult for me. Well, first you start out with, I don't have the qualities. I don't have what it takes. I get discouraged too easily. I run out of steam too easily. I get distracted. Something's wrong with me. I cannot accomplish the path. Okay, so that's the discouragement of the basis, ourself. Then there's the discouragement of the path. The path is so difficult. Yeah, I have to give up my body to some tigress. Yeah, okay, not a tigress, to a
Mountain lion.
huh?
Mountain lion?
Mountain lion. Yeah. Mountain lion, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? Cougar sounds more domestic. Mountain lion sounds really harsh, doesn't it? It's a lion. A cougar, well, you could pet a cougar, and feed your body to the cougar at the same time. Yeah. So, but it's too difficult. I don't want to give my body away. Yeah. And then I have to study, and there's 2 of this and 3 of that and 4 of the other thing. I have to remember all these lists of numbered things. That's all Buddhism is. It's just a bunch of lists, and I have to remember them all. Count this. And then when you get to 37 harmonies with enlightenment, 37, I got to count to 37. Yeah, well, what about 108? Oh, that's just too much. Okay, so the path is too hard. I can't count that high. Okay, I can't do what the path requires. Okay, so yeah, I'm hopeless. Path too hard. And third one, the result is too high. The result is unattainable. Me become a Buddha? Who are you kidding? Yeah, I can't become a Buddha. I can't even remember where I put my car keys, and you're telling me that I'm going to be omniscient. Yeah, If I had the potential to become omniscient, at least I would remember where I put my car keys. Yeah. How many of you forget your car keys? Most of us don't drive too much around here. Yeah. You forget where you put your car keys sometimes. Yeah, a lot. We what?
We lose our hats and dingwas and shoes.
I can't.
Hats, dingwas.
Hats.
We lose malas and shoes.
Oh, yes. Yeah, forget our keys. It's our hats, dingwas, malas, and shoes. Yeah, how much time do you spend each day looking for them? Yeah? Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. I know, my room is not that big. There's somewhere in here. But I wore my hat back here, I think, unless I left it there. Maybe my hat is with my shoes, but what entrance did I come in with? And which shoes did I wear? What shoes am I looking for anyway? I can't remember. I can't remember which shoes I wore and where I put them. Okay. Yeah, my dingwa. Yeah, can't find that. And our mala. Yeah, definitely. Where did I put my mala? You look all over your room. Yeah. You never noticed that? And it's right in front of your nose somewhere. But you didn't see it. Okay. So, the goal of full awakening is too high. I can't attain that. Okay, so there's discouragement with ourself as the basis, discouragement with the path as being too difficult, discouragement with the result, it just being too high. Yeah, and too impossible. Impossible. Okay, so here's another thing you're going to go and tell the Buddha. Buddha, you said that everybody has Buddha nature, that everybody can become a Buddha. But you know what? You're not right. You're wrong on that, Buddha. Because when God created the world, he gave everybody Buddha nature but me. Yeah, I don't know why God didn't give me any Buddha nature. I know it's terribly unfair, and my whole life has been unfair. Yeah. There was a witch hunt going on at that time when God gave out Buddha nature, and they discriminated against me. There was a witch hunt. Yeah, you see how left out I am. Sniff, sniff. Yeah. And if you want to help me, you can donate to my re-election campaign here. Okay. I don't know Aussies. Did you get that, Aussies? Yeah. I don't know how much you know about what's going on here. Yeah. You got it. Okay. So, this is another form of laziness, of just discouragement, and that mindset just, it doesn't give us a chance because we're convinced we can't do it anyway, even before we try, And if we do try, we expect ourselves to master it impeccably the first time. Yes? Yeah. I just learned that, all sentient beings want happiness and not suffering. So I should have incredible compassion for everybody immediately. I heard that one time. So my compassion I should be a bodhisattva already. but I'm not. Yeah. Okay. So this whole thing, building unrealistic expectations. Okay. So that's laziness. Yeah. 3 kinds of laziness. Another thing, maybe we should talk on a more positive light. What helps us to develop joyous effort? Okay, so the first, there's Shantideva talks about 4 factors. The first one is aspiration. So developing positive aspirations, that's what we do in the morning. What I just talked about, the 4 aspirations that we think about in the morning. Because aspiration is really the foundation of doing things. We're not going to do something unless we aspire to do it, unless we have the interest in doing it. Yeah. So this practice of generating aspirations is quite important. We might have some difficulty sometimes. We read the Bodhisattva aspirations. Yeah, like you read the King of Prayers, or you read the 10 vows of Vasubandhu, or you read any of the Bodhisattva texts, and you just read of the aspirations the Bodhisattvas generate. And we look at that and we say, that's too high, that's too difficult, I can't do that. And we won't even aspire for it. We just dismiss it and say it's impractical. But the aspiration is quite important. And even if you look at us, bodhisattvas aspire for things that are impossible to accomplish. Just the bodhicitta itself is impossible. I alone will liberate each and every sentient being. Yeah, that's impossible. I alone will liberate them, but this is what we're taught to aspire to. Yeah. Why are we taught to aspire to things that are impossible? Yeah, if I alone could do that, then there's no use for all these other Buddhas. Yeah. But everybody needs to become a Buddha to help whoever hasn't, because we all have different karmic connections with different sentient beings. Okay, so, generating that aspiration, even if it's impossible, because what it does is it increases our capacity. Yeah, doing the taking and giving meditation, that also is impossible, isn't it? Yeah, we can't take on the suffering of every sentient being. Who experiences the karma? We all experience the karma we create. We can't take on others' karma. We can only experience our own, and other people experience theirs. So how come we're aspiring to take on all the negative karma and all the misery of sentient beings? And we also aspire in Tonglen, taking and giving meditation, to give our body and wealth and virtue to all other living beings. Can we do that? That's impossible. We can't give our virtue away. Yeah. Can we give our body away to each and every sentient being? I mean, once that cougar eats it, we don't, nobody else is going to get it. Okay, so what are we promising? Yeah, I'm going to give all my wealth, all my possessions away to sentient beings, and it's all going to become what they need. Yeah? Well, okay, I can give this thermos away, but can I transform it into whatever other sentient beings need? That's not possible. Okay, so why do bodhisattvas do these practices and teach them to us to do things that are impossible and aspire to do things that are impossible? It's because just by having the aspiration, we're already enlarging our heart. We're already looking beyond I, me, my, and mine. We're already incorporating caring about the situations of other sentient beings and wanting to help. Yeah. So we, generate all these impossible aspirations, and it opens our heart and opens our mind in a really wonderful way, so that then when some simple situation arises where we can actually offer help, we do. Yeah, because we've aspired to do even greater things. Okay, so aspiration is one thing. Self-confidence is another thing that is important to generate on the Bodhisattva path to give us joyous effort. So one thing that is involved to help us have a more realistic self-confidence when we promise to do things, because part of our thing of putting ourselves down is because we don't do what we set out to do. Yeah, so then we call it, what a lazy bum I am. I said I would do that and I didn't. So what is very important, in the practice of cultivating joyous effort is, if somebody asks for help, to check, do I have the knowledge and the ability to do that? Okay, so now we're thinking in a practical way. Yeah, somebody asks you to fix the engine in the car. Okay, so let's say somebody asks me, Children, the car isn't running, can you fix the engine? So first thing I have to do is assess, do I have the skill and the knowledge to fix the engine? I assess. Well, I remember in high school, or maybe it was junior high, learning the names of different parts of an engine. So I know there's spark plugs, yeah? And then there's pistons. There's a gas tank. That's not part of the engine. That's part of the car. And there's an axle. That's not part of the engine either. There's just a bunch of metal that's dirty and smelly, and that's the rest of the engine. Yeah. So you asked me to fix the engine. I'm really sorry, I can't do it. Yeah? Okay, so rather than saying, yes, I am Superwoman, I can fix your engine, I can do this, I can do that. No, I'm practical. No, I can't. Yeah, I can tell you how to turn the key. Yeah, if you give me one of those things that you have to click, I don't know how to use that because I haven't driven since they've gotten those things. I only drove a long time ago where they only had keys. And you look at me like I'm stupid. You're right. What can I say? Okay, so you assess, do you have the ability to do it? If you don't, you say right out there, no, I don't. Yeah. Instead of like, oh, I want to please somebody. I don't want to say no. They've been kind to me. I should do it. I ought to do it. No, that's not helpful because we promise to do something and then somebody's counting on us and we don't come through, and we don't tell them that we can't come through. So they're expecting us to do something and we're not doing it, we're leaving them in the mud. That's not very kind. Okay, better to be practical and at the beginning say, I don't have the skills to do that. Okay, then let's say somebody asks you to do something that you do have the skill for. Okay, can you make a thermos of tea? Yes, I know how to make a thermos of tea. Yeah, they taught me how to do that in 8th grade home ec. Do you remember 8th grade home ec? Yeah. No, actually, I learned how to make a thermos of tea when I lived in India. Yeah, my family didn't drink thermoses of tea. In India, everybody does. So I learned there. Okay, so I have the knowledge to make the thermos of tea. Do I have the time? Okay, so then, somebody said, we're having a group of people come at such a time. Can you come a half an hour early and make the tea? And you look at your schedule and you're busy then. Or they ask you to make not one thermos of tea, but 100 thermoses of tea. Yeah, well, I'm not busy then, but do I have the capacity to do 100? I don't have the time to do 100. Okay, so it's better if we don't have the time to do something, to just say to somebody who asks for help, I really wish I could help you, but I have other engagements that I need to take care of. Yeah. I don't know, have any of you ever been on the receiving side of when somebody has volunteered to do something or accepted your request to do something and then they don't do it? You ever had that happen? Yeah. Especially it happens a lot, I think, with volunteers, because volunteers really want to help. Yeah, but they often overcommit to things that they just don't have the time for because they have a family and they have work and they have their social life and so on. Yeah, so better, it's kinder to the other person at the beginning if we can't do it, to decline. Okay, or if at the beginning we think we can do it, we say yes, but then halfway through we realize something happened, we don't have the time to finish, there's a problem in what we promised to do, we don't know how to solve it, then to go and tell the person immediately that we promised to do something to, so that they can find somebody else to help them, or we go and help find them somebody else to help them, instead of just thinking, I don't want to disappoint them, so I just won't say anything. And then really they're left high and dry. That's not too kind. Okay? And that also harms our self-confidence. Yeah? So there's nothing wrong with saying, just to say something truthful. Yeah, I thought I could do it. And it winds up I can't. I'm sorry. Okay, so self-confidence and steadfastness, that, to really hold that and do it. Okay, the third one to have joyous effort is joy. Okay. Yeah, you can't practice joyous effort without some joy. So, what the bodhisattvas do is, when somebody asks them for something, they just feel like, wow, somebody asked me, there's a beggar and they asked for this. Wow, I have the opportunity to practice generosity. Somebody's attacking me and destroying my reputation. Oh, fantastic. I have the opportunity to practice fortitude. Yeah. And so, training the mind so that whatever happens, we can find something to be happy about in it, instead of only feeling happy when we get what we want. Yeah. When we say to ourselves, well, I'm only going to feel happy when I get what I want, then we're really limiting our opportunity to feel happy. Yeah. Whenever, if we think, oh, I will feel happy every time I have the opportunity to practice the Dharma, or to be kind to somebody, to forgive somebody, to be generous to somebody, oh, those are really good opportunities. I feel glad about having those opportunities. Yeah, then there's a lot more opportunity to feel joy in our lives, instead of going through our lives with, I have to. Yeah. When the Achans were here, we were talking, and, I have to do this, I have to do that. And I said, the only thing we have to do is die. Everything else is optional. So we can go through our life with, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to. Then every single thing in our life is a chore that we have to do. So then nothing is fun anymore. Everything, we make it all into a chore. Yeah. Whereas if we switch our mind, all these things are opportunities. And the only thing I have to do, because have to means you don't have any choice. People say, I have to go pick up the kids. No, you don't have to. You're choosing to. You could ask the neighbor to do it, or you could arrange with your kids to pick them up later, or whatever it is. But we always say, I have to. And that really makes everything quite burdensome. And we should own it. Instead of saying, I have to, I'm choosing to. Yeah. Sorry, I can't make a donation. I have to save it for the vacation we're going on in 10 years. Do you really have to save it for vacation in 10 years? No, you're choosing to. That's okay if that's your choice. Yeah, be honest about it. I'm choosing to save it I'm saving up for a vacation I want to go on in 10 years. Yeah, instead of saying, I have to, I'm choosing to. That's much more honest. And it also gives us a little bit more of a chance to have some joy, because we should choose what's joyful. Yeah? Okay, so to have some choice. And then the fourth factor in joyous effort is learning to be balanced, learning how to keep ourselves balanced, because we tend to push ourselves and then get exhausted. And people call it compassion burnout. Okay. I was once at a conference and mentioned that term, compassion burnout. And Joan Halifax came up to me afterwards and said, if you're burnt out because of you've been doing much for others, a lot for others, then it wasn't really compassion that was motivating you. And I thought about it, and I thought, she's right. Because if I do more than I'm capable of, there's no joy, there's no compassion, there's my mind saying, you've got to meet this standard, you've got to be a people pleaser, you have to, you got to, you should. Okay, and then I push, and as a result of pushing, then get overwhelmed. Yeah. So I think, and for me, keeping myself balanced is a very, very important part of my practice. Yeah. I used to, because I compared myself to my teacher. So it was always, I was sent to work in Dharma centers, and there's always something to do in Dharma centers, and I got asked to do things. And it was, I should and I ought to. And, Rinpoche would do it. And because he has all this compassion. If I only had more compassion, I would do this. But I just lack compassion. So again, raising the bar too high, putting myself down for not meeting an impossible expectation. If I only had the compassion of a bodhisattva, then I wouldn't sleep. Now, my teacher didn't sleep. For about an hour and a half in the middle of the night, he'd sit there in meditation. That was called sleep. Oh, if only I had more compassion. I would stay up late and study, and I would be doing prostrations at 3:00, and totally unrealistic. Yeah. And again, what's wrong with me? I don't have that kind of compassion. So that's how we get unbalanced. And so it's really important to be aware of our physical energy level and our mental energy level, and to not push ourselves physically when our body is exhausted, and to not push ourselves mentally when our mind is exhausted. Yeah. And sometimes you have to say to people, even if you have a schedule that's very full of events, sorry, I can't do that, and it's okay to say that. Okay. What's even better is don't get to the point where at the last minute you have to say, I'm wiped out. Try and keep our lives, pace our activities as best as we can so that we don't get to that point. Okay. So I just looked at the clock, and the Abbey has another activity in 25 minutes. So I think we need to end right now. I'm sorry, there's not really time to take questions. But what you can do is write down any questions that you have and then send them to us. And then next month, when I give my July talk, then I can respond to your questions. Okay? Okay, so